This week in Jamaica Now, the baby death scandal, why the health minister will not resign over the deaths of 18 newborns at 2 major hospitals. No Zika virus in Jamaica, health ministry insistent after a doctor said she had it and 12 of her patients too. And soldiers sanctioned for misconduct during May 2010 incursion. The details of these and other stories coming up after the break.
In the mood for something new and fresh? Well, we have the medicine to satisfy your desire.
I'm Davina.
And I'm Trix, and this is Lifestyle Today.
I'm Caroline Brown, and this is Jamaica Now. The Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, has rejected demands to resign over the infectious outbreaks at the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James and the University Hospital of the West Indies in St. Andrew, which led to the deaths of 18 babies in 4 months. There have been repeated calls for the health minister to step down or be fired after revealing this week that he heard about the problem last week Friday. That's 4 days after it was first reported on nationwide radio. The infection caused by the bacteria Klebsiella and Serratia was detected among 40 babies. According to Dr. Ferguson, he acted the minute he heard about it. He insists there is nothing he could have done if he did not know about the problem.
When we became aware of the issue at both hospitals, we immediately assigned a team to work with them to conduct investigation and provide guidelines for case management. On Friday night, I met with the chairman and 7 other members of the board of the University Hospital in Kingston. Coming out of that meeting, I instructed that all the critical stakeholders should meet on Saturday morning at the university. After that meeting at the university, there was a press release which informed of the press conference this morning.
And the University Hospital has taken blame for failing to inform the minister. Its board is now examining a report that could reveal who is to be held responsible for the breach of a reporting protocol.
We're not in a position to say anything on it as yet because we don't want to say something that is not correct and for which it's imputed from what we say. So we are going through it with a fine-tooth comb to ensure that when we release anything, and hopefully by the weekend tomorrow, we should be in a position, and not guaranteeing to say anything. We should be able to say something because we have to have the technical people looking at it.
Meanwhile, a consultant pediatrician has revealed that more than 30 years ago, a Klebsiella-like bacterial infection was detected at the University Hospital of the West Indies, but at the time there were no deaths. According to Dr. Sandra Williams-Phillips, this is because the management took immediate steps to restrict the spread. She said a makeshift nursery with new staff was constructed to separate uninfected babies, and parents were informed of the problem. Dr. Williams-Phillips said informing parents is critical because it helps all stakeholders to understand the importance of following strict guidelines to restrict transmission. And the health ministry is refuting claims that the Zika virus was in Jamaica. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Marion Bullock-Ducasse says laboratory tests have not confirmed any case of the virus here. She was responding to claims by Dr. Williams-Phillips, who said she personally contracted the virus and diagnosed 12 patients with it.
The clinical signs and symptoms alone are not enough for anyone at this point in time to diagnose Zika virus. It's a virus that has not been seen here before, so it is important that we do laboratory testing. In fact, for Zika virus now in Jamaica, it would have to be imported, and that is why we're asking persons to report to the ministry so that we can actually do the testing and do the investigation, and most importantly, start the necessary vector control measures to ensure that there is no further spread.
There was loud applause for Dr. Rickard Bennett at King's House on Monday as he collected his badge of honor for gallantry. Dr. Bennett was at home in St. Anne one night in July 2014 when he heard cries for help. He rushed next door to find his neighbor bleeding badly from a wound to the region of his chest. Without hesitation, Bennett went for his car and single-handedly placed the injured neighbor inside, using one hand to steer and the other to suppress the wound as he made his way to the St. Anne's Bay Hospital where he worked. En route to the hospital, Bennett was involved in a car crash, but this did not stop him. He simply got out of the vehicle, exchanged his particulars with the other motorist, and then hired a taxi to take the injured neighbor to hospital where Bennett and his colleagues performed emergency surgery, saving the life of the neighbor who had suffered a collapsed lung. The governing People's National Party PNP has embarked on a series of mass rallies ahead of the impending elections. This Sunday, the party heads to Westmoreland. The warm-up rally, which is scheduled to take place in Savlamar, comes against the background of a Gleaner-commissioned Bill Johnson poll, which found that both major political parties are in a statistical dead heat. In the poll, conducted from September 25 to 27 among 1,200 Jamaicans, Johnson found that an identical 35% of Jamaicans have a favorable opinion of the opposition JLP and the governing PNP. PNP General Secretary Paul Burke has indicated that while the party expects to win the next election, it still has work to do. The West Kingston Commission of Inquiry resumed this week with the commissioners hearing testimony that 11 Jamaica Defence Force JDF soldiers have suffered permanent disabilities as a result of injuries received during the May 2010 operations in Tivoli Gardens. JDF Medical Officer Major Gail Ranglin Edwards said they were among 26 soldiers who suffered injuries in the first 2 days of the operation. According to Major Ranglin Edwards, the Army has accelerated the retirement of the soldiers with permanent disabilities. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Ogilvie told the inquiry that 2 soldiers were demoted and 2 others sentenced to military prison for misconduct during the May 2010 operations. One was sentenced to 28 days in a military prison for making sexual advances on a woman and the other for abusing a citizen. Their supervisors were demoted for failing to take action. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune into Power 106 FM for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Carleen Brown, and as we go, more from the Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, on the baby death scandal.
As a precautionary measure, I spoke with the Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. James Hospitalis, and they are on standby to give any assistance that we may require. I also spoke with the Director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa Etienne, who is sending an advice on infection prevention and control. We have placed renewed focus on infection control and sanitation in health care facilities.